Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin, and we are live on YouTube, Familia. Please, por favor, love it if you could give us a like and subscribe. It would just be awesome. Helps keep us growing, keeps us being live all year long. And Familia, someone who's been hitting it all year long. Mi amigo, mi compadre, Bo McBrayer. I mean, familia. It is his. I'm telling you, when it comes to what he's been doing, not only is he one of my favorite people, but you got to follow him. He's so hyper talented that he can't just be confined to fantasy football analysis. He is also aces when it comes to PGA. Even more, he is El Rey when he gets behind the grill, at the kitchen, anything. He is a master chef. He made me a carne asada last year when I was visiting Sacramento. I mean, let me tell you something. You want to talk about sabor Latino? He's got it, and then some. He's got it in a doctorate. You're going to see his stuff. Look at his cap. He is one of the main feature writers over at Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros. During the football season, he is the battle of the beards and bellies con our buen amigo Scott Simpson, one of our Canton compadres, and that thing between the two of them, it's a weekly battle royale. They're always killing it, and we always have some fun because we do a separate DFS DraftKings thing. So he is the king of spice, and he is Senor Pican-Takes, my truly mi buen amigo. Bienvenido el señor Bo McBrayer. Mi amigo, ¿estás en tu casa?
Muchísimas gracias. Estoy muy contento de estar aquí contigo otra vez. The carne asada, I remember your pelón was sweating. You had sudor all over your pelón. Your cabello was muy sudoroso. You were sweating like crazy because I loaded up that. I mean, I make my carne asada nice, perfect flavor, like sweet, spicy, but then we doused it with the hot box, and you got a little sweaty on the top of the brow there. It was great. I still have a picture saved in my favorites folder in my phone of your head sweating from the carne asada I made you.
But it was better.
Gran amigo.
Oh, mi amigo.
Gran placer.
The sweat was worth it, but you know what? That margarita you made me to help wash it down, that
takes it right off too. You don't even remember the spice after a couple of those.
So nice. And coincidentally, that was day 2 of the NFL draft, the 2022 version. So it's great that we're talking here. Also, shout out NorCal Peng's Picks. Hola, papi. How you doing? Hola. We're gonna be
boy over there. Davis Peng from the Bay.
Oh yes. Peng, you're gonna have to come back. You're gonna have to make a return engagement when it comes to best, but when we get more into best ball. So you've got a standing invite for there. So mi amigo, we're in the thick of NFL draft season. The Super Bowl is more than 2 weeks in the rearview mirror. The combine is happening over these next 5 days. We're recording this on Wednesday, March 1st. So everybody, by the way, get ready for St. Patrick's Day. So muy cierto. Yeah. But what's your overall perspective on this year's skill players, this class of skill players? Could they be helping some fantasy teams for dynasty and redraft in the fall?
Certainly, yes. I don't think it's a very top-heavy class. Like last year's class was kind of weird, where it was kind of an in-between year. To the 2022 class, obviously much maligned compared to the expectation that this class had coming in, and it really has stayed as a premier class of talent, especially at the skill positions. Last year was more of your edge rushers, your offensive line class was great. Your defense class was amazing last year, but for fantasy's sake, 22 is kind of that lull year between absolutely legendary skill classes in 20 and 21, and now this year in 23. And at the same time, I don't know if there's very many top tier, like can't miss generational guys in this class other than Bijan Robinson. The running back from Texas is a generational running back. There's not going to be much argument there from anybody who analyzes football. You pop him in, and he looks like a combination of Todd Gurley and LaDainian Tomlinson to me. So take that for what it's worth. Those are two Hall of Fame caliber guys at their peak. Yeah, it was so good. But I think Bijan is the one can't miss guy, but this class is deep at the skill position. Running back as a whole, the position is absolutely legendary in depth. The wide receiver position is a little bit shallower, but at the top you have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have Quentin Johnson. You have some of these top tier wide receivers that are going to make immediate impacts for whichever team picks them in a couple months.
And I think on the right wide receiver, especially those three, those two guys that you just talked about, plus Jordan Addison.
Yeah,
I really think and there are some teams that could really use a wide receiver. One guy that I'm kind of salivating about is the possibility of Jalen Hyatt ending up with the Chargers. So
I'm not that high on Hyatt. I'm low on Hyatt. Hyatt's a one-trick pony, and Cedric Tillman is better. I think Cedric Tillman has a better pro career than Jalen Hyatt.
I can see that. Cedric Tillman is a little bit more much more multifaceted.
He had an injury year, so like everybody's down on JSN and they're down on Tillman, and I think those are the two of the guys with the most translatable wide receiver skills to the NFL. But their stock is kind of depressed because they were hurt all last year. I think the people are sleeping on two of the best wide receivers to come out in a while.
Give me JSN all day. Oh my goodness,
so good.
Before I sat down with Jeff Bell our amigo Jeff Bell to talk about the receivers. I went back and I watched every one of his catches in that game against in that Rose Bowl game.
It took a while because he had 14.
he was one of
the
best
300
receivers.
yards. What? How many touchdowns? 4?
I think it was 4. 325 yards, or it was something ridiculous.
They could not cover him.
He was the best college wide receiver I've ever seen on that day. He was nothing short of fantastic. So, So I'm like, give me that he's my number one in this draft. And
Here's
I'm like,
the secret though. The secret is everybody's calling him a slot guy, and that makes his value depressed even more. Shh, he's not just a slot guy. He just really dominated in the slot because they put him there when they had Marvin Harrison Jr. and other guys on the outside, Chris Olave last year. Think about that. When they had Olave and Garrett Wilson on the outside last year, when JSN absolutely dominated from the slot with those two top 10 talented wide receivers on the same receiving core. It was JSN who outproduced both of them significantly. And then those two guys leave. JSN gets hurt, and then it's the Marvin Harrison Jr. show. Love to see it. He's going to be huge next year's class in 24. But this Ohio State wide receiver factory that they're creating here, don't sleep on any of them doing any of these things, because we heard the same slot-only junk about Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing.
How many times did we hear Justin Jefferson he's really good, but can he beat press coverage? Like, I think he can annihilate press coverage. It's like, did they put him in the slot because of such and such? Because of Jamar Chase being on the outside? I'm like, no, they know they have a matchup nightmare if they put that guy in the slot. It's smart offensive coaching.
JSN is another guy I'd love to see at the Chargers, just because I just want to see another big time weapon go into getting into Justin Herbert, and with Kellen Moore calling plays. I don't have to tell you. Hey, we got a quick question that I think this is, what's the worst class, the 2013 class or the 2022 QB class from Ping's Picks?
I'd say 22, and I think that 2009 was even worse than the 13 as well.
Ooh. So remind me who came out in 13.
Christian Ponder.
Oh, yes.
Christian Ponder, and I think what's his name from Florida State was the number one guy or Florida, I can't remember, but EJ Manuel was the top guy.
Was that the year Brandon Whedon came out too? And people were talking him
I remember 09 being a horrible class. 11 was a horrible class behind Cam Newton. Like, if you take away Cam Newton at 101, the rest of the class was garbage. So yeah, we've had a lot of down years for quarterbacks. 22 is definitely one of them, especially when the only first round pick was Kenny Pickett, who had no business being drafted before the second round. It just comes down to this year is a lot better. We have a brighter future ahead of us in quarterbacks. And really last year, nobody needed a quarterback that bad. That was kind of what happened is if you had more quarterback need among the teams in the league, Kenny Pickett would have been a lot higher. You would have seen a higher pick for Willis and Howell and all those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that bad, but think about if the need was there. Like that kind of saved us last year was that the quarterback need wasn't very strong. Otherwise, we would have been all just duped. We would have been all bamboozled. It would have been horrible. And because the draft capital didn't follow up last year, we kind of got saved by that. This year, the draft capital is going to be there. The need is definitely there. And the talent is definitely there. So I think we're back, baby.
And it's all the South. It's the AFC and the NFC South. It's like they are the teams that are the most quarterback needy all over the place. So it's just like, and you know what I love about that? There's teams that play in good weather or play in domes. I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, get these guys, get them good, and then all of a sudden watch them perform in December when they're playing in those perfect conditions. Give it to me all day. Give it to me all day long. And Chicago getting a dome, por favor.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Let's see. Which QB class, of course. And then Dame Overboard otra vez. Thank you. Is he a TikTok boy? Oh, Mr. Scampers, muchas gracias. Yes, Bo and I can't wait. And yes, 20. Yeah, EJ Manuel, Peng's Picks. Thank you. And Whedon was 2012 with 10.
Thank you. We have a research assistant here, Peng. Thank you so much for clarifying it. So there were some dark years back then.
Oh man! So the really interesting thing was a real quick, interesting Brandon Whedon story was he was in the Dodger minor league system. He got drafted the same time as Matt Kemp. And so they actually played together a couple times, and I did a little thing on football players who were also playing baseball, and I did a thing on Brandon Whedon, and he asked, "It's like, do you have any pictures of me with Matt Kemp?" Because at that point, Kemp was like, all-star, dating Rihanna, just everything was going great for him, and so I had to tell him, unfortunately, no pictures. So. Too bad from the minors. So
I have a correlation story to go off of that. Matt Kemp is famously from Midwest City, Oklahoma, which is the home of Tinker Air Force Base, and that's where my brother-in-law was stationed when he was a staff sergeant in the Air Force. So I've actually been to Midwest City, Oklahoma, the home of Matt Kemp.
Oh my goodness! And
there's not many Dodgers that I hated more than Matt Kemp.
Oh man, he did some damage up in San Francisco. Yeah, he
not against Sergio Romo though.
No, or Sergio Romo. That's a bad man. And and from what I understand, a really good person. Dude.
Really.
I've heard it from San Francisco people. I've heard it from Dodger people. Just as good.
He's one of a kind, and that's a good thing for him.
And one of the great closer celebrations there is ever. So yes, love it. So you got to be at the East West Shrine Bowl in Vegas. Anyone stand out for you at that game that we could be hearing about later this year?
There's a couple, and at the wide receiver position, of course, there's Zay Flowers, Boston College. He's kind of he's on a lot of people's top 5 wide receivers in this class. A little bit of a smaller guy, but explosive. We're talking a guy who's going to run a high 4.3, low 4.4 speed. He's a lightning bug, really easy getting it open. Beats press coverage for his size. I really like him. I also liked A.T. Perry out of Wake Forest. He's a bigger receiver, 6'4", 215. He weighed in a little bit lighter. I think it was 185 in Vegas, but the measurements in Vegas were way off for a lot of guys. So I'll take it for what he looked like on the field. Was a really tall guy that can fly and glide like a gazelle, stacking guys vertically. on those routes pretty easily. And it was a pretty good DB class that was at the Shrine Bowl. A.T. Perry was stacking guys vertically all week long. And at running back, surprisingly, nobody's been talking about Xavier Valade from Arizona State. He wasn't even invited to the combine, but this guy led the Shrine Bowl in rushing. He looked great all the way through practice. I interviewed him myself. This guy is bigger than they measured him at the Shrine Bowl. They measured him at 5'11", 199. This guy is nothing short of 6 foot, 210 pounds. He's beefy and he can fly, and he's got really good lateral movement. And one thing that I love about any kind of running back prospect is he slippery? Is he difficult to tackle? And Xavier Valade is hashtag difficult to tackle. So I think he could be an undrafted or a really late round pick that somebody gets a diamond in the rough because the guy's ready to go to work.
You were telling me about him when I was driving home from my own trip to Vegas, and that's a guy that's I'm going to keep an eye on. And like if he doesn't get drafted, or if he gets drafted late, I'm gonna keep an eye on him on my later in my third and fourth round in dynasty picks. Mr. Scampers, yes, it was all Spears. And by the way, shout out to Dame Overboard. I don't know if I said hello to you or when I started this, but yeah, that's gonna be so good. Now, before we get into this class, last year you were probably one of the most bully tight end people from a strategic draft standpoint. Kind of what's your state of the union on the position, kind of as we're kind of heading into that dynasty season and best ball season for Davis Peng?
So that's going to be the tricky part, because I don't see any of these guys, maybe outside of the top guy in this class, that are going to be even starting this year. Like, they're not going to get playing time enough to be fantasy relevant. There's no Kyle Pitts in this class. There's not even a Chega Okonkwo in this class. We're not going to see that super duper athletic receiving only tight end in this class. It doesn't exist in 2023. However, there's a lot of guys that were in the draft last year who are going to jump up. There are guys who were hurt the year before last, who showed out last year and have come up to the forefront, who are going to make the starting tight end landscape deeper, which is very welcome. And the reason why I went bully tight end is because it's such a scarce resource. And once you got outside the top 5 tight ends last year, it was a complete wasteland. And I saw that coming. So I loaded up, and I would spend 2 of my first 3 picks, or even 3 of my first 4 picks on tight ends, and fill my flex spots with tight ends. Because if I have all the good ones, that means I have 10 or 11 opponents that don't have any good tight ends. And I have 2 of them. One I can start in my tight end spot. One I can flex. One I can start in my bye week. Like, I don't have to scrape the waiver wire at any point for a tight end that might or might not score a touchdown to save my bacon that week. So I think it paid off. This year I don't see it as necessary, because I do believe the talent will be deeper. And I do think that the pack will be a little bit closer to Travis Kelce than it was in 22, which was a huge gap between 1 and 2 in the field.
Oh my God. Yeah. Last year was close to 2020 where I think Kelce was over a touchdown ahead of the number 2, more than a touchdown per game ahead of the number 2 tight end. So
I think Kansas City addresses wide receiver this year. And I think that Kelce kind of comes back to the pack, not in a huge way, but enough to where if the pack catches up to him a little bit, we get a little bit closer packing. You don't have to spend as high of a pick on Kelce this year, and you don't have to pray as much at the tight end position when you're drafting.
Oh man. Well, you mentioned Kyle Pitts, coming off knee surgery. Desmond Ridder, if he is the quarterback next year, definitely was. So what, with quarterback upheaval possibly in Atlanta, does that kind of temper your enthusiasm for Senor Pitts?
The only thing that ever tempered my enthusiasm for Kyle Pitts is his moron of a coach, Arthur Smith. Talk about a guy who unlocks a player, a 30-year-old running back who hadn't been relevant on offense in 8 years. He has the wherewithal and the ability to coach that guy into fantasy existence for the first time in his career. And he doesn't know what to do with a 6'6", 240-pound antelope of a tight end who catches everything within 15 feet of him and runs a 4.4. Riddle me that, how Arthur Smith can't figure that out. It's like all you have to do is run ISO plays like the Chiefs do with Kelsey. Kyle Pitts is 10 times more athletic than Kelsey, and you don't see Kelsey begging for the ball. You don't see Kelsey going through huge dry spells where they pull him off the field in the red zone. What would you say if Andy Reid said, "Oh, it's 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. Kelsey, we're going to give you the rest of the drive off"? It's preposterous, right? That's what Arthur Smith did the first 2 years with Kyle Pitts.
And the sad part is it seemed like he started to call more plays for Drake London, who is very much
That's fine.
But I'm like there are a lot of those passes could have been routes run by Kyle Pitts, who can run anything because Drake London was running out of the slot. He was running some outside. You can run everything with that you ran with Drake London.
Both of those guys are interchangeable. And that's another thing. We take it back to the Chiefs is remember in the Super Bowl when they called the corn dog play and Tony scored on the wide open touchdown. They called that same exact play for the same exact side the second time. When Sky Moore scored, it was supposed to be the same formation and the same play, but the slot guy ran to the wrong side. So when they were motioning, they're like, well, you're already over there. So let's just flip the play and run corn dog left. And that's why Sky Moore was wide open. So it was like, okay, they're all interchangeable parts. Justin Watson was in the slot on that play. He lined up on the left instead of the right. It's okay. You're still the slot guy. And Sky Moore, if you're X instead of Z, we're just going to say, hey, we're just going to flip it. Get the code word out there. Patrick Mahomes says flip the play in his special language out there on the field, and they know what to do. They know what to do. The Falcons did not know what to do in those situations, partly because their quarterback couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Neither Mariota nor Ritter could do that consistently. It was just a comedy of errors on offense, and especially when this is a team that was in contention far too long into the season.
Yeah.
Despite running the ball down 3 touchdowns with plenty of time to catch up, and they were trying to lose faster.
Yeah. Amen. The only good
Kyle Pitts wheels up. I'm really nervous because as a football player, I think that he's going to start getting frustrated because we're going into the 3rd year of his rookie contract, and they have done absolutely nothing to show that he was worth the 4th overall pick.
It's oh man, how high do you have him on your own dynasty rankings for just the tight end position?
Tight end one.
I mean,
easily.
Yeah, he's still. I don't think he's 23 yet, right?
He's not even 22.
He
turns 22 this year.
Oh, that's right. Get that guy. Yeah, just please throw them the ball. Get him.
He put up 1,000 yards receiving as a 20-year-old.
You get him 125, 130 targets this year. Just watch out. Just please, por favor.
Get him Lamar Jackson or somebody good at quarterback.
Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah, you're just ay, me haces cosa. You got me thinking. I mean, the way Lamar Jackson found Mark Andrews all those times when it made Mark Andrews the tight end 1 in 2021. Come on. You're teasing me.
Tore it up at Oklahoma.
Yes.
And getting a quarterback that not only can throw an accurate ball in the red zone, which Matt Ryan couldn't do, Mariota certainly couldn't do. You had a guy like Lamar Jackson who was seeking his tight end in the red zone. That was what he wanted to do, was when it wasn't a designed run call, which it was a lot of times, and you're not going to get any different calls from Arthur Smith in Atlanta, is a guy like Lamar Jackson says, oh, it's a pass play. Where's the big guy? Where is he? I'm going to him. I'm going to throw it up, jump ball. We're going to do the tip drill at center court to start this game. And I know my guy is going to get that ball, and your guy isn't.
Mr. Scamper's throwing out the idea of Derek Carr going to Atlanta, which
that would be great.
I wouldn't hate that. Would not hate that. He loves to feed his he loves to feed his tight end. He
I
loves to
believe
feed.
only half of his targets last year were catchable.
Oh yeah, Mariota was all over the place. That was rough. That was rough. Well, we've teased the 2023 tight end class, and again, you being Mr. Bully TE, I'm so glad you accepted my invite on this one, on that drive that you helped keep me awake. But let's jump in. We got out of Notre Dame, Michael Mayer, no relation to John. 6'4", 265 pounds. I mean,
prototype.
Daniel Jeremiah has him as his number 22 prospect overall. I really liked him. I liked his hands, physical after the catch, runs a little stiff, kind of kind of like Gronk a little bit late in the career. He's your tight end one. Spoiler alert, Familia.
Shocker.
Tell me why.
He's just good at everything.
Yeah.
And NFL teams are looking for a guy who's well-rounded. And because there isn't a Kyle Pitts in this class or anywhere close to it, you go with the guy who can do it all. The guy can block. He can pass block. He can run block really well. He's got good footwork. He's got great hands. What I love about him is his instincts, running routes. He reminds me a lot of George Kittle. And that's kind of a good thing where he's well-rounded. Kittle's more of a nasty player. Like he's more aggressive than Mayer. Mayer's more of a refined talent, but it shows up when he runs routes. He runs them with a purpose, and his hands are excellent, just like George Kittle. So I think prototypical size, physical after the catch like Kittle, that's where it kind of comes out, where you see a little bit of Mayer's nastiness is when after the catch, where he's looking to hurt somebody and leave an impression. That just screams Kittle to me, where I think Kittle's a little more athletic than Mayer, but you get a big guy rolling downhill in the right offense, and he could do special things for fantasy, especially.
Yeah, and he's just like you mentioned, he's not afraid of contact. He's gonna go after the safeties, the linebackers, and those guys, and he's gonna put a hit on them. And that to me is something that that they're gonna be thinking about that for a while. And I like him. I'm after UCLA, Notre Dame is my second favorite college football team, so I love the dome helmets. But. And you know what? The other thing about him, he's got a little bit of that dog, like George Kittle, when it comes to the blocking, which is going to keep him on the field. I got a little bit, I got a little vibes back from I think it was the late '80s. Mark Vivaro, New York Giants.
Yeah,
got a little bit of that. Probably, like you said, not as physical. Probably not. Bavaro was a little bit more of a crazy guy, but yeah, just
he was nuts.
Yeah, I love watching him play.
The last thing I'll say about Mayer is that the reason why I like him a lot, and I think he translates well, and a lot of people think he translates well, is that we're going to a lot of offenses in the NFL that are RPO based. And what that means is your tight end is often that last receiving target in the progression. And a lot of times he's pretending that he's blocking first for the run play. And a lot of times that comes into where it's an RPO and the guy hands it off. He's going to have to be blocking to start the play. And the defense has to believe him that he's a blocker for the RPO to really work. And if you have a guy out there that can't block, they're not going to believe it's a run play if the guy goes out there and barely chips the defensive end inward or kicks them out and whiffs on it and then runs a route. They're not going to believe you when you're running the RPO, and it's not going to work as well. Michael Mayer lays good enough blocks where he can chip really hard on an edge rusher, buy his quarterback more time, and then release into coverage and get open all in one fell swoop. And the defense respects that because they have to respect the run, but then they also have to respect that Mayer's going to be able to press the seam once that RPO breaks down.
Oh, okay. You summed it up perfectly. I mean, I wonder where I'm going to be really interested to see where he lands, especially because I feel like he's going to be a guy, he's going to get the draft capital that he's going to be on the field immediately. I mean, it's interesting because like these top three guys that we're talking about, Daniel Jeremiah in his latest mock has them all going in the first round, which is kind of local, considering where the tight end has been for years. But let's look at this next guy going to Utah. As football.
You broke
can
up
you hear
a little
me?
bit there. Yeah, I can now. You're back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's get into Dalton Kincaid from Utah. He had that huge game against USC. Just was an absolute
Who
monster.
didn't? That defense was garbage.
Basura. 16 catches, 234 yards, and a touchdown. Just, I mean, was an animal that day. I think that put him on the draft map because he came in for an injured player. You know, when you're talking about this guy, could he eventually make an impact?
Of course, yeah. Any guy that's that big, that can run that well, that works that hard, he's a great story. He wasn't recruited out of high school. He went to a small school first, transferred to Utah, basically rode the bench as a walk on, and then gets put in the game, and he leads his team in receiving for 2 years. That tells me that the guy is not done yet, getting better, because it's a trait that we see in Jalen Hurts, where no matter what bad thing happens to him, the next time we see him, he's better than he was before. And Dalton Kincaid is continuing to get better. Every time we see him, he's doing something else special. So I can't bet against the guy that's on a roll like this. Utah's a fine program. They're extremely well coached. They're extremely well prepared, and they wouldn't play a guy if he wasn't ready to go. Dalton Kincaid was the class of that team last year. That tells you everything you need to know. If you're the best player on a Kyle Whittingham team, is you want that guy in your football team. I don't know if he'll be fantasy relevant at any point, but he's a dog, and you know he's going to stick around the league a long time with the way he plays the game.
Oh, I'd love to see him jump into like a tight end focused offense. The Rams but the Rams aren't going to be picking high enough to get him. He's not going to be a first round. He's not going to be a first round pick for them. But I love those offense. I mean, 49ers are a great example. Obviously, he's not going to supplant George Kittle, but get him into an offense that really likes to feature the tight end. I think he's a more fluid runner, maybe a little bit faster than Mayer. I just a little bit more. He just seemed to me, in looking at him, it was a little more athletic, not as big. He wasn't as willing to, punish the defenders as much as Mayer was, but. Very much enjoyable watch. He's a guy I'm very much keeping an eye on where he's going to land.
Very savvy route runner. That's what I have about Kincaid, is that dude's smart. And we've seen these guys pop up that you're like, how did he get open? We say that about Kelsey. We said that for years about Jason Witten. How is this lump of a guy getting open? Smarts, understanding coverage, understanding leverage, understanding what his quarterback wants to see when he drops back and looks downfield. I think Dalton Kincaid can be a Hayden Hurst type player.
Ooh, that guy's had himself a career.
Yeah.
And Kincaid's been good. Yeah, Jeremiah has him as the number 10. His number 10 prospect. All these guys that I think he had a couple guys before he had his first receiver. So the next one, now I know you're an Oregon fan, so this one's gonna. I
already know where this is going.
It's gonna have some consternation. Luke Musgrave, Oregon State, 6'6".
I hate how good he is.
He was one of the stars of the Senior Bowl. I think he got measured as he would have been. His speed was over 20 miles an hour. And I think he would have been the third fastest wide receiver that was measured in top speed. This guy, I mean, tell me what made you hate this guy so much watching him against your Ducks?
Well, we didn't see much of him last year, but the year before that, he was unstoppable. So he is a project. He's not much of a receiver, really. No matter how much you say he's fast, he's a gigantic human being. Is 6'6", 250. He runs well, but as a receiver, not very polished. If you get this guy the ball in his hands, like if he runs 5 yards and turns around on a little hook route, and you let him run in space, you're going to have bodies in his wake. But I think as a professional, he's going to have to make his hay early on as a special teams player and as a blocker, because I don't know that he has the receiving chops to match up with a lot of the other guys in his class.
Yeah, I saw a couple of, when you talk about the receiving, I saw a couple of body catches that I don't want
Yeah,
to see.
that's a huge red flag for a tight end that's looking to catch passes at the next level, especially with as limited of track record as Musgrave has. Catch the ball with your damn hands, extended out off your body, for the love of God. It drives me nuts. Like, what are these guys being coached to do? There's no reason to catch the ball in your body unless it's a very specific place on the field with a specific kind of throw coming your way. And so many of these guys catch it in their body and they get to the NFL and the ball gets knocked out. The ball gets knocked away before it gets to them. And they're not winning the 50-50 ball because the ball's taken too long to be secure. And so, yeah, the hands catches are what we look for, and the body catches are huge red flags for guys that we expect to catch passes in the NFL. It flies in college just fine, especially in the Pac-12, where they don't really play any defense. But in the pros, it's really not good.
I was exchanging messages with Pat Fitzmaurice, who he is in his the GOAT himself, when he apologized to West Coast Pac-12 fans because he was slamming the defenses. I was like, I sent him a message. I'm like, listen, we know our defenses suck. So,
but we still every year have defensive superstars come into the league. Go figure on that. Every year we got a top 10 guy coming off the defensive end from Pac-12, and this year it's going to be no different. You got Christian Gonzalez out of my Ducks right there. He's going to be a top 15 pick at corner. Don't sleep on the defensive players' talent in the Pac-12. It's just there's a lot of junk too.
Oh yeah. If it's only one guy who's a star, it's the other 10 guys who are giving it up. So that one's
for sure.
So the next one's this guy could block out the sun. Darnell Washington at Georgia, 6'7", 265. Just oozes size. I mean, Brock Bowers was the All-American on that team.
NorCal.
Definitely. Oh, that's right. Go ahead. Give him a shout out, NorCal.
I feel bad for Darnell Washington because if NorCal, pride of Napa, California, Brock Bowers wasn't there, Darnell Washington would be getting a lot more respect for his receiving chops this year.
Absolutely. Just, pretty athletic. I saw him hurdle some guys on a few plays.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
This guy is absolutely disgusting. He's humongous. We're talking 6'7", 265 pounds, and he runs like a deer. Like we're talking about, remember Jelani Woods, how he came out to the combine last year and shocked everybody by running a 4.6 at his size? Darnell's going to do the same thing, except Jelani Woods can't block and Darnell Washington can.
Yeah, he's got a good blocking reputation, and just pretty athletic. And to me, another thing that I love, he wears the number 0. I don't think enough players wear that number. So a little bit of a lumbering runner, but man, no one wants. I don't think people are making business decisions whether to tackle him when he's got a full head of steam and he's coming in. And I think they're going to
just picture this guy in the red zone.
Oh, man.
Who's going to stop him?
Yeah. He's got leaping ability. He can go get the ball. Yeah, he's just get him into a good pass.
Comp. You want to hear the comp? This is great. You're going to get this because you're older than me. Algie Crumpler.
Oh yes, I think he's going to be better than him.
I hope so.
Yes,
Algie 6'7", gigantic human, runs well, blocks well, and then you'll have games every once in a while where he just goes off as a receiver.
Can you imagine like the Bengals getting him?
Yeah, I could see it. I think the Bengals would be better suited addressing the receiver position a little bit heavier, like throwing more slot guys, because I don't think they're going to retain Tyler Boyd.
Right.
So tight end's not a high priority for them, obviously, because they got rid of shoot, now I can't think of him. The guy went to the Jets.
Oh, CJ Uzoma?
Yeah. So Uzama went to the Jets. They replaced him with Hayden Hurst, and they kind of did the same thing. That's a very defined role. And so I don't think that he would do anything more special than those two guys in that offense. It just comes down to putting him in a place where he becomes a goal line weapon. That's kind of what his lot in life as a fantasy asset is going to have to be, because I don't see him as much more than a chain mover or a red zone target. Excuse me.
I see. Yeah. Better than
the Colts. The Colts just have too many tight ends. The Colts just have. Hey, we haven't seen a tight end we don't like yet. That's a pun. That's innuendo.
And they're not going to underuse or just use on the week that everybody sits them for DFS.
Jim Irsay has never turned down a tight end.
Oh, pun definitely intended. Muy bien, Bo. Muy bien, mi amigo.
A perfect Indianapolis joke for Combine Week.
Dude, we got to get to the Combine.
I'm going next year.
I think we got to find a way. It's going to happen. Okay, we'll be
already said
there too.
I was going to feed the low BMI guys next year, because you can't have Devontae Smith and Bryce Young having question marks around them because they're not heavy enough. So I'll get there early and start cooking for the prospects.
Oh, today I saw a video of Bryce Young walking in. I think he was walking in next to Levis, and it was just like, ooh, that's a big height difference. He should have not walked in next to somebody like that.
When you watch him on the football field, it's the other way around.
Oh, Bryce Young's going to be special. I love watching him play.
He's so
I think
good.
he's going to be fine. I want him to get into a place where they're going to put a good developmental coach around him.
There's a lot of things in this world where size matters. Quarterback isn't one of them.
No, I mean, Russell Wilson. I mean, you go back. Franz Harkington was 5'10". Drew Brees.
Yeah, and a lot of like I comped him to the Chiefs' old quarterback back in the 60s.
Which one? Len Dawson?
Yeah.
Wow.
Bryce Young is Lynn Dawson.
Wow. Interesting.
Short, slight, but savvy in the pocket, super duper accurate, can make all the throws, always knows where the ball is going to go. Bryce Young is a creative artist with the football in his hands, and he is absolutely lethal at hitting his guy.
And he did it against great defenses.
The best you can possibly go against.
That Georgia defense in 2021 was one of the best all-time great defenses.
He lit them up.
Yeah.
Oh, but he's too small. Too small. Like Jordan Davis was on that team. Jordan Davis is Godzilla. And Bryce Young still lit that defense up. He was the only guy that actually put up points on that defense.
He might have done it again, except all his receivers got hurt in the national champ by the time they got to the national championship game. So
they're all gone.
I'm like the thing with him, it kind of reminds me with the people who were discounting Deshaun Watson when he was coming out of Clemson. And it was just like, I just kept saying, listen, he keeps tearing apart Alabama back-to-back years when Alabama just kept sending guys to the NFL. So I'll take my chances. And so far he's been right. So, well, let's go to Iowa. Nearby Indianapolis.
This is tight end university.
Tight end U, Sam Laporta. 6'4", 249. He fits the prototype. Tight end U, good athlete. I liked him a lot after the catch. Pretty fluid runner. He saw a lot of screen passes. I know people talked about the bad quarterback plays, so they just give him short passes. Yeah. Is he going to be able to rise above that at the next level?
Yeah, I don't know that he's as special as a lot of people make him out to be, but he's a good, solid football player. And talk about pedigree. I mean, this is a place where George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant all came from. So I'm going to take my chances and say Sam Laporta is going to be pretty good at the next level. I'm not sure he's going to be much of a fantasy asset. He's just too well-rounded, but not great. He's a jack of all trades and a master of none. So that's kind of what I'm concerned about with Sam Laporta is he's getting a lot of steam from certain people, but then I watch the tape and I don't see anything really special to him.
You know, he's a guy. It's gonna depend where he lands. I think DJ just knocked him out of his top 50 prospects. I think he had him in the high 40s at one point, and then just moved him out of there. It's going to be interesting. I wonder what it's going to be like when he you know, if he ends up with a team that has a really good quarterback, getting, you know, kind of like seeing what those passes are looking like. Yeah, I think he might be a guy that's kind of developmental and
actually, I think it's the opposite. I think a lot of these guys are like the other tight ends we've seen over the last few years, where they take 2 or 3 years to get to be what they're going to become as a professional NFL tight end. I think Laporta gets to his peak faster, but then he doesn't go above that. Like I think Laporta might flash early, but then that's all he's got. He's not going to be anything above what he's going to show early on. Which it's okay. I mean, he's gonna be one of these guys we're gonna be scraping for mid-season when we're looking for a waiver wire fill in.
You mean like when Greg Dulcich had that, you know, saw all those targets or, you know, midway through the season?
Much rather have Greg Dulcich than Sam Laporta. And I didn't even like Dulcich that much last year, but the way he showed his yards after the catch last year, I was okay with that because if you have one of the best receivers in a horrendous offense, Denver's offense was so bad. But one of the bright spots that we saw was wide open quite often, and Russell Wilson just couldn't get the ball to him. Greg Dulcich impressed me. He looked better. He looked better in the pros than he did at UCLA, in my opinion. And that's a good thing. That's the same thing I saw from Brock Purdy, where Brock Purdy played better for the 49ers in that system than he ever did at Iowa State. So bring your A game to the league and you're going to get paid. Dulcich is going to get paid. Brock Purdy is already a household name. If Sam Laporta can show up and show out early, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of people clamoring for the next Iowa tight end.
Oh man. Well, let's talk about the next Miami tight end, Will Mallory.
Speed.
Talk to me. ¿Qué dices?
He's a receiver only tight end. This is the kind of guy where you don't expect him to block. He's the Kyle Pitts archetype, although not anywhere close to the same ability. Will Mallory is your seam stretcher. He's the kind of guy that can get vertical on a defense, which I don't think any of these guys, except for Mayer, has shown the real ability to do at the college level. Even none of these guys, except for Mayer, has seam pressing speed. And I think Will Mallory has that verticality where they can flex him out as a slot receiver on 4 wide sets, and he's going to get more reps as a receiver because he's not a good blocker. A lot of people say, oh, you need to be a good blocker to get on the field. Like, no, these teams all have specialized play packages for certain situations. If it's 3rd and long, you're not putting your blocking tight end on the field. If it's 3rd and 6, you're not putting anybody on the field except for guys that can get to the chains, get open, and catch the ball and move those chains. Will Mallory has the athletic ability and the hands and the yard after the catch ability to make a difference as a fantasy asset at the next level. I have Mallory all the way up at tight end 4. And so I'm a little bit higher on him because of his fantasy upside, because nobody's going to expect this guy to block at the next level. That'd be, why'd you pick him? Why did you pick the guy if you expect him to block? No, you're going to pick this guy because he's a big body who can run routes and run fast.
Yeah, we don't pick Travis Kelce to block. So come on.
No.
Yeah, we don't get fantasy points for blocking. It keeps him on the field.
Yes, you'd have to be as dumb as Arthur Smith to take a fast wide receiver with a 240-pound frame and make him block.
Love it. Love it. Well, the last guy we're going to talk about, going to the FCS, Tucker Kraft, South Dakota State. Some people have been talking him up. You're shaking your head. Dígame.
He's not good enough. He's just not. I watched more FCS ball than I care to admit, and I actually enjoy watching the South Dakota State Jackrabbits because they run the ball a lot. We saw Pierre Strong come out of there. They run the crap out of the ball. And then they run these little trick plays off of their triple RPO plays where the tight end will literally run like 2 yards, shuffle his feet like he's going to block because they run a lot of zone blocking, and they run for I think they had 3,000 rushing yards last year as a team. And then he just runs vertical past everybody on defense that's selling out to stop the 45 run plays they're going to call in a game, and nobody is covering him. Nobody. I saw one of this guy's long touchdowns was on a jump pass on 3rd and 5. Oh no, it was 3rd and 1, and they faked a quarterback sneak and did a jump pass to the tight end over everybody because they crashed the line of scrimmage to stop the quarterback sneak. And this guy just went straight forward. The quarterback leaned forward and then did a pop pass over everybody. And the only person left was the tight end running down the field. I couldn't believe it. Tucker Kraft got some of the cheapest stats I've ever seen. And no, he's not going to be a pro for me. Like, I just can't do it.
He was just a man among boys. I think he kind of showed out more because the competition was really
terrible.
Yeah, it was not good. And he is.
What are you gonna do with a guy that size? A guy that size could be moderately athletic and look like Barney and Friends with all the kids running around him. That's what he looked like to me because he's so humongous and he runs pretty well. I just don't think he has the traits that you want for fantasy, especially. But as a blocker, he's good. Like, I think he could be on a roster blocking really well, especially like you see a Michael Pruitt type of player where he might score 2 1-yard touchdown catches every year. And you mention his name on red zone. You're like, God, I hate that guy because all he does is score touchdowns and vulture things from the real target. There's another Falcons reference I'm bitter about. Michael Pruitt scored more touchdowns than Kyle Pitts last year.
Oh, God. Oh,
but yes, as a blocker, as a professional tight end, I think your Jackrabbit here, Kraft, is going to be a decent guy, but I'm not on him for fantasy in any way.
You got any sleepers coming out of this and that we haven't talked about?
No. I think we covered him. A lot of people say this class is deep. I completely disagree.
It's, I'm going to be very intrigued. If guys get draft capital like the Daniel Jeremiahs and the Mel Kipers and those people seem to kind of think, they're going to get thrown into the position, and I think they're going to get overdrafted, which to me is going to be like, to me it's going to reinforce the fact that I'm going after Travis Kelce. That's going to be my tight end strategy.
I think Mayer goes in the first, but some people are saying Kincaid will go in the first. I don't think that's going to happen. There's too many good defensive players. There's too many good linemen in this class at the top end. I don't see Dalton Kincaid going earlier than the second round, but Mayer mid to late first for sure. And I wouldn't mind seeing Mayer play for my Dallas Cowboys.
That would be sexy. That would be sexy.
That would address multiple needs because they're probably going to let Schultz go. They have Ferguson and Hendershot. With Hendershot's basically a fullback, and Ferguson's a good tight end. But we know McCarthy is calling plays, they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. They're going to run the ball a lot, and Mayer's a good run blocker. He's a better run blocker than Ferguson is, and he would start over Ferguson immediately. But you have 2 good tight ends who can catch passes. You can run more 12. And you have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup on the outside in 12 personnel with Tony Pollard or whoever they have at running back. Who knows? Who cares? But having a guy who fills 2 positional needs as a receiver and as a tight end, I think that would be a great pick if he's sitting there in the 20s for the Cowboys to get.
I know I had this a little bit further down on the on the show sheet. But anything else you'd like to see the Cowboys do? I mean, with the running back position itself, I mean, there's the question mark on Tony Pollard, both coming off the injury and whether he's going to be franchise tagged.
He's getting the tag, no doubt. No doubt he's getting the tag. And I think they're either gonna work out a pay cut for Zeke or they're gonna cut him. And I don't think they've made up their mind yet because Zeke says he's receptive to a pay cut, which is great because there's no way in hell they're gonna pay him a $25 million cap hit this coming year. That's just stupid. You can't work around that. But if they give him a pay cut, they're all but saying Tony Pollard's the guy next year, which is fine because he really is. We saw that. He was a 1,000-yard rusher, scored a ton of touchdowns. Zeke was your goal line back, which is what you really need him for at this stage of his career. Is you're not going to stop Zeke at the 1-yard line still. We saw it all year. He scored double-digit touchdowns because he's still a sledgehammer. He's just not the burst guy that he was in 2016. We don't want him. We don't need him to be that anymore. Pollard is the alpha omega running back, and they're going to franchise tag him because there's no reason to do anything else. Because even at the same time, Pollard's 25 years old, and if you give him an extension, you're going to be working into past his prime as well. You're going to do the same thing you did to Zeke with Pollard, and with running backs the way they are, there's no reason to do that.
Oh man, do you think they draft a wide receiver?
Yeah, I just don't know if they'll have to draft one that high. I'd like to see them draft somebody that can stretch the field. You mentioned Jalen Hyatt. I don't see Hyatt as a top 15 pick like some others do, but if he slips into the late first round where the Cowboys are sitting and he's sitting there, I wouldn't mind because the guy burns. He can definitely take the top off of defense, and there's not many of those guys in this class. So you get Gallup, who's a good chain mover. You got CD, who's just elite in every way at running routes. I think that Dak would really enjoy having somebody who can fly like that. Even though Hyatt's very, very one-dimensional in that way, it's a really nice dimension to have if you have all the other pieces around him. We don't need you to run all the routes. You just run fast and go straight. And then sometimes you come back and they're still running where you were going, where you're gonna go.
He's the guy I think I'm the most excited about to see run this week to see if he goes under 4.3. There's people talking that he,
No, I think the only wide receiver that'll go under 4.3 is Yosivas from Princeton.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. A Princeton guy doing that.
He's a track guy. If you watch his highlights, he's running and everybody else is in mud the way it looks. And it's insane because I don't think he has that much redeemable skill at wide receiver yet because he's a big project. But I think he's even more of a project than Christian Watson was last year. Like not hands problems, but just route running and understanding concepts. Coming from Princeton's a huge learning curve, but not many have heard of Yosivas yet. But I think this week when he runs a 4.28, people are gonna be like, who the hell is this kid from Princeton? It's gonna be interesting to see how much his 40 time affects his draft capital.
And getting a Princeton guy, you're like, okay, well, we'll teach him how to run routes. He's going to be smart enough to do that.
He'll catch on like that, right?
Yep. So I've been asking my guests of late since the calendar turned and the Super Bowl passed, but any valuable lessons that you learned from the past season that are kind of starting to shape your analysis and your strategies for 2023? Any?
I'm going to pat myself on the back because last year I went against the grain and drafted robust RB. And it paid off because I looked at the draft board and I saw where everybody called it a running back dead zone. And we had 3 of our top 5 wide running backs come from the dead zone last year. So riddle me that. If there's really a running back dead zone, don't you think the top 3 of the top 5 running backs in fantasy points wouldn't come from the dead zone, the dreaded dead zones? Like, no, load up on running back because once you hit that cliff after the dead zone, that's when it's really dead. That's when you're just praying that you have talent there. And meanwhile, there's a billion wide receivers that have wide receiver 1 upside. So last year I went robust RB, and this year I'm going to do it again because running back is even deeper this year.
Yeah, especially after these rookies. settle in, and hopefully they're getting, even if they go into committees, if they're getting 10 to 12 touches a game, a
I'm
few of
getting
those guys.
value on second year wide receivers. We're still seeing value on Drake London, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's super underpriced right now. Like, gee, many Christmas. All that doubt about your quarterback is causing this guy to slip for no reason at all. It's like, give me Garrett Wilson in the 6th round all day.
Oh, another guy that
I got four top running backs before you guys rolled out of bed and got one. And now I'm going to load up on wide receivers with wide receiver 1 upside. I'm going to grab a Travis Kelce or Kyle Pitts somewhere in the midst there. And my team's just stacked. Even if 1 or 2 of my running backs gets hurt, I still got a whole stable full of the other ones that are going to put up a ton of points. And if they stay healthy, there's nobody's going to beat me.
Love it.
It's risky, but that's what we do. We're trying to win.
I mean, and you end up getting those guys. Yeah, because I mean, literally last year, unless you grab Tyler Algier late or Isaiah Pacheco,
in the 7th right now.
Yeah, still in the 7th right now. Oh, it's because of the quarterback situation. That's why.
Yeah,
that's why. But it's going to be figured out. They're going to figure it out.
I bet you Derek Carr goes there, and then Olave is going to shoot up to the 4th.
Man, yeah. I love Olave. I love me some Olave. Let's see. We got. Yeah. The Pats are gonna draft him in the 2nd round. So, Familia, as you guys know, Bo was one of my roommates in Canton for the Fantasy Football Expo last year. By the way, if you guys, Davis, he and I hung out quite a bit last year.
And Jorge's the only chingon that snores louder than I do.
And I was in the next room. Amigo, what this time we're I know we your original intent was to be manning the grill or manning cooking something delicious. Anything you got you're planning or hoping that we can get access to?
Yeah, last year the whole plan was to get an Airbnb, and we had it all sewed up, but they changed the community ordinance in the place that we were trying to rent out of for Airbnb. They were on board with everything. They were super nice, and their community, that's like a little gated community in North Canton, said absolutely no Airbnbs allowed, and so they had to cancel the reservation, and then we just had to get a hotel room. But we'll try it again.
Hopefully. What do you want to make? Anything you want to make for the masses?
Oof. I think we could, because I know we're going to get a place with a grill, and so I'm going to light a fire. I like lighting fires, fire. And so if you guys are all going to be willing to come over and eat, we're going to have some wings and some ribs and some chicken. Yeah, chicken wings, chicken thighs. Pork, beef. We'll throw some brisket on there. Who knows? I'll probably just spend all the days I'm not at the expo just sitting in a lawn chair with a beer in my hand, barbecuing.
We'll just keep bringing you the beer so you can so you don't have to get up and everything like that. Yeah,
that would be much appreciated. That is the rule, though. If you're the grill master, you can't sit next to the grill unless you're holding a beer.
Well, I'll make some frijoles so we can have a little
brisket. Es la ley.
Yes, we'll make some brisket tacos and everything like that. So,
yeah,
it'll be good.
There's another rule with brisket tacos is you have to make a really, really picante salsa for it, because brisket's just salty and really tame. There's no spice to it because you're just doing salt and pepper. But if you throw a little, and you got the beans that are neutral flavor just for glue, you don't want it to hold together. You don't want the tortilla to fall apart. That's what the beans are for. It's a spackle for your sheetrock there. Then you throw the brisket on there. It's all salty and gooey, and it melts in your mouth. But then you throw on this fuego salsa on top, like fire roasted red salsa with the hottest peppers you can find, and leave your crying and Pelon sweating. That's what a brisket taco is gonna be. And a little cotija on top just to liven it up.
I'm already getting the image of a new picture that you're gonna get, in Canton. So it's gonna be with the Hall of Fame in the background. Oh, mi amigo. Oh, okay. Any favorite? You have one of the most educated palates out there when it comes to Mexican food. Any favorites you got lately that you're making lately?
So I've been dabbling with starting a cookbook. I want to make a cookbook and publish it so that everybody can cook like me. But one of the chapters of that cookbook is going to be on comfort food, Southern comfort food, like soul food. And so I was making, I made some Louisiana red beans and rice the other day. And I will tell you this, it is, if you nail that, you don't want to eat anything else for like a week because it's so addicting.
Oh, red beans and rice. I mean, Southern comfort food. Oh, so yes.
I already love making jambalaya and gumbo. That's kind of where it came from. Is if you can't fry it, put it in a soup. That's pretty much what it's what it is. And so yeah, a lot of the recipes like chicken and dumplings, I can make that. But like right now is pozole season, so
Oh yes.
that's my next thing. You sent me the receta for your mom's albondiga soup. I'm gonna make that soon, but I'm also gonna make a pozole verde for just a random Sunday when it's cold and rainy outside.
Which that's what it's been for us in California.
This Sunday is calling my name for some pozole.
Oh, it's perfect. As we're watching the linemen and the quarterbacks run the 40, so it'll be perfect.
Puking their guts out. Nothing cures a hangover like pozole.
Oh, perfecto. Oh, mi amigo, this was awesome, como siempre. I mean, I always love hanging out in person, virtually like this. Just awesome. Yeah, un gran éxito, mi amigo. Okay,
La puerta está siempre abierto para ti.
Oh, gracias. Oh man, I can't wait to. I got to find a reason to get back up to Sac so we can have a little more carne asada. Or actually, I want the red beans and rice. So
I'll make it whatever you want, man. You just name it. You name it, I will cook it for you.
Oh, gracias. Hey, listen, you've been banging it so much on the golf and the dynasty and the football stuff. What point people to what's going on? What you got coming up?
So you can find me on Twitter at Bo_McBigTime. Right now, my pinned articles are my PGA betting articles for betting pros. If you want to win some money, like tomorrow morning, first thing, 7:00 a.m. Eastern is when the lock happens for the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. So if you're watching this tonight, then head over, check out my betting work. Check out the In Between Media 19th Hole Live, which is a DFS and betting golf show with myself and Connor Coughlin, and we talk about whiskey too. So it's a great golf and booze fest, and we're two of the same kind, where we're both golf nuts. Like we got a really nice comment this morning on somebody who watched our show last night saying how that we were braver than most and more knowledgeable than most because we told people about stats that actually matter, like ball flight and being able to curve the ball left to right or right to left versus just a blanket. Like a lot of the edges have been ironed out in football, but in golf, there's still lots of edges to be had, especially for DFS and betting. And so that's what we try to do is kind of give people that advantage when they're placing the bets or making DFS lineups. That's kind of what we're looking to do, is bring a level of expertise that isn't seen elsewhere.
Oh, perfection. Well, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on things when the Masters is gonna be coming up soon. So I'll be.
Yep.
I'll have to play a little DFS on that weekend just to have some fun.
And Combine starts tomorrow. I'll be covering the Combine for Fantasy Pros from the comfort of my living room. Some of the guys are there in Indy, but I'll catch them next year. But I'll be watching the Combine and reporting on it with a few articles each day.
Oh, perfecto. Well, Familia, he's the king of the Pican-Takes for a reason. the man, the myth, the legend. Bo, muchas gracias for joining us. This was
Millones de
beyond.
gracias para ti.
Oh,
Gran placer estar contigo en el aire, en persona, en vivo.
We got to find a reason to hang out before Canton, but even if we have to wait till Canton, we'll get a big bear hug with you, me, Scott, and Mike.
Yeah.
So
I might have to come down to SoCal for some sunshine in a couple of weeks.
Por favor, love it. Familia, thank you so much once again to Bo, and also make sure we are as always we are a proud member of the Fantasy Points Media Group. Make sure you're going to fantasypoints.com to get your 2023 subscription. So tell them Jorge sent you. Also make sure you're going to following me on Twitter at Jorge Martin 17, and I push out all my content that way. I'm gonna dabble a little bit in some YouTube shorts coming up. We've had so much good content that I'm going to cut it up a little bit and put it out there in a little bit more fun ways. Also, make sure to go to familiaffb.com. I'll be throwing out some content on here, looking ahead to looking at what's come out of the combine, looking ahead to the 2023 season. So much stuff happening. And lastly, also, thank you to Anchor for putting our podcast on YouTube, on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please give us a follow on there, subscribe, maybe give us a thumbs up. Maybe you find that, leave us a review. Love it. Also, just make sure you're giving us a like and subscribe on YouTube. Filled you up. Just familia. Enjoy the combine. Enjoy the I really appreciate you guys joining us for the NFL draft. They're going to have a little more content coming up, because you know what? Todos somos familia. Salud.